what's back there, mate.
Is that which one?
Dave, look at something's going on in Dave's place.
We went through this 10 minutes ago.
Oh, what is it?
All right, let's go.
I have a magic
background.
microphone.
Dave's at a concert.
So pro, and I'm in my kitchen.
I'm in my office. Do you want to see where I really am?
All right, you got 2 secs. All right, so we're going live now. Okay, hi and welcome back to the Ministry Downunder Webcast.
Yes, hi everyone. You have to let us know where you're watching from in the comments. But yeah, we've got a great session coming up today. We have, let Chris introduce them because they're good. I lead out all the rumour stuff because Chris it off to me. So Chris better introduce them.
Hi, so we've got the group formerly known as Paul Colman Trio here today. We've got up the top, we've got Phil. We've got, well, actually we've got Dave in the middle. Dave's the ultimate sound guy. And we've got Grant down the bottom on the left, and we've got some other guy down on the right, Paul Colman. So
Hi.
So, hi everyone, how's everyone doing?
Well, thanks.
Very well.
Welcome.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Chris.
So we're glad to have you guys with us today, and from all over the world, actually, aren't we? We're not all in Australia anymore.
It's true.
No, we are all over the place. Although we were all over the place when we were in the same city.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, I have a feeling the truth is going to come out today.
I tell you what, this is historic for a number of reasons, but I think the number one I can tell so far is this is the first interview we've ever done with Dave Jacques.
With Dave Jacques.
Oh.
Our secret weapon.
We feel honoured, don't we, Chris?
That's historic.
True. I've kept a low profile.
We tried to keep the fourth member of the band secret, but it didn't work.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, it's good to have Dave. I mean, I've got Dave here specifically today because I've got a couple of questions for him. So we can't just let him sit behind the console all the time and fade into the distance because, I mean, this man's like got some really amazing skills in ministry and stuff like that, and I just wanted him to be able to talk to some of that too. So, yeah, so good to have you here, Dave.
Thanks, mate.
Man of many words. So,
No, Dave spoke to me once. I didn't understand either of the words.
I don't usually use that many words when I'm talking to you, Paul.
Nice.
Hand gestures.
So let's get down to it. So Paul, what are you up to over there other than cleaning down all the surfaces in your house? And what are you up to over there in Nashville at the moment?
Well, I was on the road about 3.5 weeks ago, and I went 19 hours on a tour bus to Connecticut, and then 5 minutes before the doors opened, the tour was cancelled. So on the way back to Nashville on the tour bus, I ordered some face masks, 80 cans of soup, 12 packets of butt wipes.
Yeah.
And is
Too much information.
What you mean by the question? Or
Yeah, pretty much.
80 packets of ramen noodles, and then I started looking for another job.
So what are you doing now for work?
I have been teaching guitar and singing online, and I'm actually studying right now to sell insurance.
Oh, cool.
Really?
Insuring music to us.
Yes.
Insuring things coming back for a while.
Okay, cool. All right, so Phil,
I think, Paul, you'd be very good at that, mate, because our nickname for Paul was the Velvet Steamroller.
Wow.
You know,
Speaking of that, Grant, do you have all your insurance needs covered?
Here we go.
Oh, dear.
Let's talk about that. I'm not sure. What is insurance?
Paul could be our sponsor.
That's it. So anyway, Phil, what have you been up to lately? Where are you based these days?
I'm in Melbourne, Australia, of course. I am sitting in my little home studio. I've had the privilege of doing an album with an artist just the last couple of months. I was sort of on the side, but I also work for a church, doing a few days a week for them. Been working with Dave Jacques, actually, doing some video editing at his company. And yeah, it's all sort of changing. All the recording work stopped. The video editing work stopped for the moment. I'm lucky enough to still be working for the church group at the moment. So, yeah, things are changing.
Oh, cool. All right. And how about you, Grant? Where are you these days?
Well, I live in near a little village called Upper Moutere, which is at the top of the South Island of New Zealand. And yeah, I've been here for a bit over a year. But before that, I was living in Nashville, Tennessee, and where Paul is actually. But yeah, mainly focusing on a thing called More Than Music Mentor, which is what I do, providing online and on-site training for the heart and the art of worshiping musicians. And a lot more of that is online at the moment, not so much on-site with everyone in lockdown. And making trips from here back to the US from time to time. Did 4 of those last year, had 3 booked for this year. Don't know whether they're going to happen or not. Probably not. And go to Australia from time to time to do this as well. Anywhere that'll have me. But the on-site stuff, like I've said, I have to rethink how all this works. He says as he touches his face, he's not supposed to. Yeah, but, yeah.
We have a couple of comments here, Grant. So far, both comments directed at you. Someone called Cameron Norsworthy saying, first interview ever with your natural hair colour. So that's good to see.
No, this is the fake colour. No, I've done interviews with this hair colour. It could have been this hair colour for most of my years in the Paul Colman trio, I think, but who knows?
We'll never know.
and just a shout out to Justin Sturdy, who wants to say hi, Grant, as well.
Hey, Justin's online. Fantastic.
Yeah, cool.
G'day, guys.
Nice.
Hi,
Cool.
Justin, even though you didn't say hello to me.
Yeah. Or me.
There's nothing.
Karen.
Hello.
There's nothing for you, Paul. All right.
Oh, that's a shame.
So Dave.
Yes. Hi.
Dave, what? I think we know. I think we know a little bit about what you've been up to with Phil. But what else have you been up to?
So I have a day job, which is something that I've been doing for about the last 10 years or so, which is working for an importer doing system design and training for audio stuff, which is related field to obviously what I was doing with the trio, but a little bit more home centric, which was good. I've still keep a hand in it. I've been doing some concerts and shows and little stuff locally. These days I'm not on tour as much as I was. That photo that you can see in the background is a shot of actually the last show that I did in the States.
Those people are not social distancing.
They are not, and they're all dead because of it. Oh, well, maybe we'll never know. So yeah, and so I have some equipment. I do my own stuff. I also do some work for the company that I work for, where I work with Phil as well, which is great. And yeah, that keeps me out of trouble. And this is my little home studio. There you go. I've just moved into my home studio.
Awesome, Dave.
Yeah.
So that's my truck, actually. That's a truck that I drive around and go and do recording and stuff.
Dave, that looks amazing. Can I see that again on my screen a bit bigger?
That's another shot of the back of it.
So is that the doghouse for you?
That up well.
So I'm just flicking my backgrounds because I don't actually know how to do anything else, Paul. I'm just masquerading here. Like I've got a magical microphone over here that magically appears when
Whoa!
So so that's what I do. So having fun doing it. It's good to hang
So
with
is that
Phil.
a semi-trailer truck?
No, it's actually an old Snap-on tool truck.
David is.
Oh, nice.
So
Okay. Yep.
So it's like
You've done well.
Yeah, it was just something a friend and I built over the course of a couple of years, and it doesn't do enough work, but it's a good place to go and hang and mix some stuff and tool around, and if nothing else, sit out there and drink beer and listen to good music because the monitors sound amazing.
So when Chris and I get famous, we'll be able to hook you up and you'd be able to drive your truck over. And
That's it. We can
Ooh,
do
nice.
this.
We can start
You could
doing.
even do it now when you're not famous. That would work.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's true.
And, it has an invoice printer at the front of it, and
Just put Chris's name there.
it's
not
got
mine.
like a little
Yeah.
pay pass thing on the door. You just hit it,
Yeah,
and
that's-
off you go.
It's unfortunately run out of paper, I think. I couldn't get it to work.
Nobody's been able to get it to work. That's the problem.
Cool.
Oh dear.
Just another thing, yeah. Chris Hall says you've all aged well. There's a good thing. There's a positive.
I'd spent hours to get this look.
Nice thing of him to say that.
Nice.
Yeah.
And a shout out to Mark Johns, who's a massive fan as well. He said he's been watching you for years, since '99. Kumar, all those days. So good time.
Hello there.
Anyway, so let's move on to now. Grant, what are you up to with your music mentoring stuff and all that sort of stuff? Do you want to talk about that a bit?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, as I said before, we're providing online and on-site training for the heart and the art of the worshipping musician. That's my little tagline, slogan thing. But yeah, I just love helping people. Like there's a lot of music going on in the church, which is great. Even right now, when a lot of churches can't gather on a Sunday morning or whenever they usually gather. But music's always been part of the life of the church, and I found myself with a skill set that I really feel like I can help people utilize music more effectively as an expression of worship. Some of that is just going and working with teams, helping them craft a better sound. There's a lot of confusion, I would say, about what we're supposed to be doing with musical instruments and songs and singing and PA systems in the church. You know, is it a concert, or are we trying to get people to worship God through these songs? What's going on? And I love to try and bring clarity to that question. So yeah, offering myself to churches around the place. There's a lot of free resources at morethanmusicmentor.com, articles and videos. I write for some of the magazines that speak into this whole realm of music in the church. I make a lot of training videos. But what I love to do most is do these on-site workshops where I actually get into a room with people. And you can't just get straight to the what are we doing with music and how we're doing the music. You got to attack the question of why, because the what and the how make much better sense when there's agreement about the why.
Yep.
So you're helping people understand, like, in the Christian church, why would we have music? And is it any different to why we would have music at a wedding or a pub or a concert? And I think it is different. There's a different set of agendas going on that I love to bring clarity to. So it's a lot of fun. I still sing, I still write songs, I speak. You know, I advocate for the work of compassion in Australia and the United States and World Vision in New Zealand. Love doing what I can to care for the needy kids around the world, but I also love serving the Christian church wherever I might find it. There's many different flavors and styles and denominations and I guess musical emphases. I love just helping out as best I can.
Yeah,
I've seen Grant do this, and I have to tell you, it's outstanding. I've never seen a more gifted teacher in my life. Like he is absolutely phenomenal at it. Like seriously, he's got him super organized, but it's fantastic. So if you're watching this and you want him to come, like I'm genuinely saying, without being prompted or paid, that he's actually brilliant at it. I think it's his sweet spot in life.
Oh yeah,
he's so good.
Thank you so much, Paul. And I would agree with that. You know, I love playing bass guitar in the trio and Sonic Flood and playing for other artists and things like that. And I'm a good bass player, or at least was. I haven't practiced for a while. But yeah, I really feel like I'm actually a teacher. And like Paul said, it's taken me a long time, but I really found out what I think God wants me to do with my life, which is to help other people, especially where the intersection of leadership and music and what it means to worship God. So I love it.
Yeah, I have to say as well, I've been on your website and I just got captivated. That the articles there are amazing. So, and I mean, I've been sharing them, getting my wife to share them with our music team at church and things like that too. Just this week, going, hey, you guys are going to get on here and check some of this stuff out. It's really good.
I've seen in terms of what he's talking about that asking people why. I was also that kid that was the pain in the neck. We're doing this.
That's a surprise.
Why? Because we do it this way. Why? I was always that kid. So when I've seen a group of people sit down and be deconstructed and reconstructed by Grant, where they go from here to here. And talk about me being the velvet steamroller. He sees Captain Sugar if I'm the... by the end of it, they're biting off things that they would never have even thought of at the start. But he really deconstructs it and asks a lot of really fundamentally great questions.
Yep.
And then gets to the point of like, then what? Because if this is what we're doing, we have to go back to why. And then suddenly at the end, people are like, well, then why are we doing that? And he's like, yeah, great question.
Yeah. You've answered the question for yourself. And, just to involve Dave in this, a lot of the things I learnt by being in a team with Dave Jacques, our audio engineer, have come out here. I find myself doing these workshops, and audio engineers love what I do, because they're like, oh, this is why I haven't been able to get it to sound good in the room. This is why our congregation is struggling to connect here, because what's being presented to the mix engineer has been unmixable.
That's a kind way to say that people can't sing, really, isn't it?
No, it's and I love working with people who don't think they can sing. It's not about our ability level. It's
that's
about
good, isn't it?
What we're trying to do. But yeah, I learned a lot of stuff from you, Dave. Thank you very much.
Hey, man, thank you.
And I love helping musicians know that the only objective ears in the room are the person at the mixing console or at that iPad. And we need to be asking for their input so that we can give them what they need to get the job done. But we've all got to agree on why we're having this music to start with. So yeah,
very true.
Audio techs end up loving the stuff I do. In fact, there's a couple of companies in the US who are like, they do installs at churches. They install PAs at churches, and they're like, we are suggesting that people have a workshop with you before they switch on their new PA. Because what you don't want is a church to spend a lot of money on a new sound system and it still sounds bad because the ingredients that are being baked into the cake are still past their use-by date, or they've gone rotten.
It's a compressor over the whole system.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just a great, and it's this team thing. You've got to, if the person from the senior pastor to the person in the congregational pews to the person on the platform with the microphone instrument, the person behind the console, we all have this same goal. We know what we're shooting for. Then you've got a chance of getting there. But at the moment, what I see is, a drummer's up there because he loves hitting the drums. We've got a girl singer up there who wants to be Brooke Ligertwood. She's pretending she's that. Someone else is trying to get their own sort of euphoric personal experience of God as they sing. And someone else is thinking they're just doing another gig. Yeah. And the senior pastor doesn't know why people are not connecting. And the people in the congregation are confused. Am I supposed to sing? Am I supposed to listen? Am I supposed to go to sleep? What's on my phone?
Something shiny.
Trying to bring
I would say too, like my first go-to phone call or person I tell people to call when they need to put a production together is Dave. Sorry, Dave, you're getting a lot of calls from people I know because Dave knows people, not just the equipment, but also other people in the industry that know how to do stuff. So, so I just want to shout out to Dave for all the
thanks, man.
Probably millions of hours of work you put into Christian ministry over the years. Because I've been I've known you since years and years, probably 15, 20 years since I was soldering looms at Power Audio back in the old days. So back when you were running at a lighting company. But I'll tell you what, there's no other person I point people to at the moment when they're doing a Christian ministry with medium to large events. So Dave's the man. So for
thanks,
that
man.
stuff, because you've got the heart for it as well as the brains, and all the know-how, So
We'll hand out his phone number afterwards.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Well,
so how do people contact Dave Jacques if they want to contact him about that?
Phil's my manager, so he takes care of everything.
Yeah.
There you go.
Just send me an email.
No, you can.
I am Dave Jacques' manager at Gmail.
Good idea getting an introvert to be a manager. I think that's a great idea.
He'll never overshadow me, mate.
I don't know.
Phil is a rock star. He's a rock star because he delivers the goods every time. That's why.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep. So, I mean, if people are interested, you can obviously get to me through Facebook or the Facebook's page for the truck is Audio to Go, audio number 2 GO, and yeah, you can get me there or just ask around. Chris has got my details if anyone wants it.
Oh,
Do you want to hear a good Dave Jacques story?
Yes.
I don't know if I do.
In case you're listening and you're not sure, Dave was, for all of the time the trio was together, he was our front of house operator and then became tour manager and drove through the night most of the time when we were sleeping. But before that and after that, he's also worked for other people. But when we started touring America in 2002 with Third Day, we couldn't afford to pay Dave, so we asked Third Day if they could bring Dave on as a part of the audio crew, and we would pay him a little bit and they would pay him a little bit. So about the week 6, we're at Oral Roberts University in Oklahoma, and there was this one day where the Dave, what's his name, Andrew, rest R.I.P., the great mound of sound. He was doing sound, but he wasn't that great really. And Dave was just walking from the bus to catering, just walking through, and Andrew was trying to tune the PA, and he turned it down. He goes, "Dave, what's the problem?" And without even looking, Dave goes, "It's out of phase," and just kept walking. Within about, I think, 3 weeks from there, he was the guy that made
systems engineer, I think, by then, right?
Engineer for the
guy that does that.
Then when they fired Andrew, then Dave was the front of house guy. So the thing about Dave is that he's very unassuming. He's very, very generous. He's very kind, and he really knows what he's doing. And he and Phil just worked so well together because they both had a passion for technical stuff. Both of them have the fabulous temperaments for that job, and they would just work together, and there's nothing they couldn't fix. And there's so many things that were helpful for our band because of those two guys. But yeah, so both of those guys, I've actually come to a stage in my life where introverts are kind of my favorite people. I've actually been home now for 3.5 weeks, and my daughters come over every Wednesday and every second weekend, and I haven't felt lonely. I've come to enjoy my own company more. But those guys, like, just talk about a person like me comes from a background of having 1,000 words and 4 actions, whereas those guys are like 4 words and 1,000 actions. And so that's something, I'd say that's probably more true for Grant, Phil, and Dave. But people like that, I've learned a lot off over my life because I'm trying to be someone that trends in the other direction, where my actions speak more than my words do. But we had a lot of fun, and Dave, there was many nights where we were asleep, and Dave's just a road dog, man. He's just driving that thing through the night. Need to sleep, Dave? Nah, I'll be fine, mate. I'll be fine.
I remember, here's another little Dave Jacques story.
No, I know which one's coming.
He's driving through the night, and I take her out there one night, and he's got his laptop set up and got it angled in a particular way. So it's a head-up display on the windshield of this truck. He's watching the interstate in America ahead of him while watching AC/DC live as he's driving as the head-up display.
I thought you were going to talk about when the satellite dish came off and hit the car behind, but we kept
the
driving.
truck.
Phil was driving at the time, wasn't he?
Phil was.
Dave could multitask. He could watch a movie, read the directions, and drive all in the middle of the night. It's pretty amazing.
Yes. Probably also like forwarding the next gig, making mobile phone calls.
Wow.
This is not to be unkind, because what we did was we set up jobs for who was best at them. And Grant,
is that why I was folding T-shirts?
also when you were not allowed to drive.
That was a good move. I remember very early I said, guys, I just don't think it'd be wise if I drove.
I respect you for that, because you were on the lookout for content.
Yeah, I had to be. 90% of drivers believe they are above average at driving.
And 87.6% of statistics are made up on the spot.
Nice.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to hijack that and talk about Dave.
Poor David.
So So yeah, so Phil, in that sort of space, you've been in, you had your own recording studio and all those sort of things. And you do a lot of mastering and things like that as well. Like, are you doing a lot of that these days as well? Like,
No, the work has kind of changed. I think, obviously with the way the music industry changed when everyone was making money off selling CDs, has now shut down, and the only way to make a living as a musician, I guess, is to constantly be on the road touring. So in a lot of ways, people have changed the way they record because they need it to be cheaper. So they do it all themselves. They do it at home. They do. So whilst I'm here as a producer, I can record music for people. It's more for the inexperienced in some ways. The people that experience record their own stuff and put it out, or pretty much primarily themselves. Might even mix it and get it, master it themselves and just release it on Spotify or whatever.
Yep.
I've been learning to edit a vocal take this week on Logic X Pro, and I think it sounds okay. I'm going to put it out this afternoon.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah, I've got a little like a Good Friday, like a rework of the song "Were You There?" Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Did a little rework of that. I demoed it back in 2014, and thought it'd be nice to put, because I'm looking for what can I do to serve the church, and just to follow up with what Phil's saying, it's like, well, this recording of the vocal I did in Nashville in 2014 isn't going to cut it. So I re-recorded it and then looked at YouTube to find out, well, what do people do to this raw recording of a vocal to make it sound decent? And it's I am not a technologically minded person, but it's got to a point where, yeah, I could make it. You actually have to do a pass filter at 100 hertz. And it takes away all that mess, that was, is that how it's done? So yeah, I was able to get something that I now feel able to let the public hear. It may not be the best thing in the world, but yeah, I'm sitting here on iMovie making a little lyric video for it, hoping that churches who can't be meeting together are going to be able to play this "Were You There" rework on their Good Friday services, because I've got a lot of pastors who are looking for content to play to on their streaming to their church congregations who are all at home and gathered around an iPad or a phone or a TV. And but Phil's right. Like back 20 years ago, what Dave and what Phil did in technological world just like made my head spin. And I think back then, maybe Paul, you were the same, but it's become a lot more within reach. Laptop, couple of $100 for the right software, a few $100 for a good mic, and you're off.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah, you're seeing that on YouTube a lot too. Like, just even teenagers just getting on there and having a crack, with their laptop and like a fancy mic. So yeah.
Yeah, well, Skrillex has made a lot of music in a taxi to the airport on his laptop with the headphones.
Yep. And
put it out from there.
Yep.
Wow.
So it's the whole world has changed. No longer do you have to go into an expensive studio, spend $100,000 to make a record.
Just before we go back to Paul, because he's obviously wanting to speak a little bit more.
He's bored.
Where are you based, Dave? A few people are asking where you're based.
I'm in Melbourne currently, so I do travel, although not so much at the moment. But yeah, mostly in Melbourne, Australia based. Tina and myself live here, and this is where I grew up, and we love it.
Cool. Nice one. So, Paul, you've been doing some concerts online. Have you got any tips for people from a musician's perspective about doing some live stuff to engage your audience?
Yeah, I'm all ears.
Online, you mean?
Yes, streaming.
Not really. I had no idea what I was doing. I just tried my absolute best. I got a mate in the room that everybody here knows, Jeremy, because I just needed someone to fire back on. But I've only done 2 of them, and I don't know how it's come across, because I tried to watch the first one and I got about 40 seconds in and I about threw up watching myself. I wasn't sure what chin to look at. I was like, oh mate, wow. Anyway,
grow a beard and cover them all, mate.
Yeah.
Stonehenge. I don't really know. I'm not really sure. so much of what I've been interested in over the years has been, reacting to a live audience. And so playing just to, I just imagined I was playing the Scandinavians because they just don't move or speak the whole time you're playing.
Yeah, ironically, that was the question I was going to ask you. I was going to say, what's it like playing to a camera instead of a reactive audience? Because I know you especially like the reaction of the audience. So
yeah, I never really. No one comes to one of my shows because they're like, "Oh, you got to hear him sing." "Oh my gosh, you have to see him play the guitar." "Oh my gosh, wait till you hear this song." It's never normally that. It's more like the entertainment value. So therefore, when you're just sitting in front of a thing, it forced me to have to just focus on the songs, which is something I've always been a bit insecure to do because I haven't thought they're that great. So I didn't really know what was going to happen, but I really wanted to see if I could make some money doing it to pay my bills. But more than that, I wanted to see what it was like to try and give people some encouragement. And so yeah, I don't really know. I don't really have any tips. I don't really know what I was doing. I was just doing my best to try to sing the songs and chat with people, and it was kind of strange though.
Yeah. So your advice is, if you're not technical, go grab someone who's technical and
I didn't do any
get them to glad wrap a laptop and post it to you or something.
Yeah, we ended up just doing it on my iPhone because we tried all these microphones, but they had compressed in limiters in them, and they all sounded terrible. So I don't know. Ask the guy with the fancy microphone there.
Right.
Oh, is that me?
You've got an SM7B, mate. That's
an SM7B. It took me a while to learn what the correct name of it was. I got it wrong.
I've got an Invisa mic. My hands are around it.
Yeah, SM7B here, which famously Michael Jackson used to record all the vocals for the Thriller album.
Really?
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's
that exact mic or
not this exactly. No, but
the funk of 40,000 years, right?
But this type of mic. No, this is what I'm hearing a lot because I'm wanting to do some streaming stuff as well. And I've been researching this. I'm glad to hear you say what you just said then, Paul, because I have heard this over and over again, that when it comes down to it, if you're looking for the right balance of casual, relaxed in the room and a forgiving sound of a room, and what I mean by that is a sound in a room is always a lot more forgiving of a musician's performance, a vocal performance, an instrumental performance than the direct line that goes into a desk. Even if you add computer reverbs and things like that, if you're not going to pre-record something and then edit it and mix it and treat it and massage it and do all those wonderful things, then you're better off just having a good quality newish phone with its little mic in the room. And I think that's what Paul did, and that's what I've been watching a few of these people's online streaming, and that's more or less what they're doing now. Sometimes what they've done is sing into a microphone and play their guitar into a system and have it coming out of speakers, and maybe adding some reverb and mixing that and making sure it sounds good in the room and a good full sound. But still, what ends up going down the internet. It's coming from a phone microphone.
Yeah, and you've also got the compression of the service you're using as well. Like, for instance, if you're using Zoom like this, the dynamic range of Zoom is quite small. So, and even if you're playing music, you need to turn all the compression stuff off in the background in the advanced settings just to even play lower notes, as a lot of musicians are finding. So, so it's a balance of both. It's like try something, listen back what you've done, and then kind of.
Just to comment on Paul's little live concerts, I think apart from the technical side of things, the people that watched them really enjoyed the interactivity because they could see other friends that were watching. They were messaging each other. They were sending Paul messages even though he wasn't reading them right at the time that they happened. Saying, I love this song, or can you play this one, or I love this bit. So there was a lot of interactivity for the fans.
Yeah,
probably even more so in some ways than what they would usually get at a concert.
Yeah.
Less interactivity for
you did
Paul
a great job, Paul. I dropped in on the first one. You did great.
Yeah.
So I think even though Paul probably doesn't get the satisfaction that he is used to as an artist, the viewers absolutely love it because they're actually getting a little more, sense of, oh, this is happening right now, and I get to communicate with others all across the world at the same time. So
So someone like Phil or Dave would have been able to do what my friend Jeremy did, was because he had a laptop and he mirrored what was going on the screen onto my large monitor that I sat and I was able to see. And then he would make a text and blow up 4 or 5 messages that people had said that he wanted. And then I was able to interact with it. So I had no idea of how to do any of that. So it really actually shows one thing, and that is the relationship between music and technology is pretty important. And so guys like Grant and I, who during this period where we traveled, I mean, the 4 of us literally traveled the world for 5 years together.
Plus a guy named Adam Lester for some of those years too.
That's true. It
would be great to have him here, but anyway.
Texting me just before, but,
yeah.
But like without sort of people that have that ability, so that whole thing of like years ago with, oh, you're a geek, and it was a put down. Now it's like, oh, you're a geek,
Yeah, exactly.
And so you got to have that relationship between, people that are like me that much more focus on the performance than the technical side. Without people who have made instruments, or without people that have made microphones, or without people that know how to run a PA, we never get heard. So the relationship is so important. And I think that this online thing, and maybe what Phil's saying there, is that fact that people were able to interact in that way was sort of more, it was almost like, it was good that Paul was performing, but I think the event for them was much more interacting with each other and enjoying that, and maybe getting some stuff answered in real time, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, one of our listeners, Chris Hall, was saying it's encouraging to hear that, actually, Paul, that you're a little insecure while you're doing that sort of stuff, because it's a human element, I guess, and that's what I noticed from your stream as well, is like on stage normally when I see a Paul Colman concert, it's all polished, everything's timed, the sequences, and on your stream you're sort of sitting there going, am I on, and it's human, it's great. I love it.
Exactly.
I actually love it, because it's like, oh, so that's you.
Just so you know, any polish you ever saw, you can see their pictures up there, right there. I don't even have this to polish my performances with. Anyway, but I will say this. I think one of the things that I've done over the years, maybe it's one of the reasons why I became entertaining, is I didn't really think my songs were that great. And so I would hijack them and make stupid bits in them, because I didn't really feel like they could stand up by themselves. Now, when Grant and Phil started playing them with me, because they're such pros, that was the first time I ever thought, oh, that actually sounds all right. But when I'm on my own, I constantly have to fight that insecurity that if I just play the song, it's never enough, that I need to say something funny, or I need to do something clever. Wow. So actually doing that, and the second one I tried to do no songs that I did in the first one, except for I only did one song that I didn't do, that I did the last time, to force myself to try to face my insecurities. That's the reason why I wrote that set list. Wow. So it actually was kind of like difficult for me to do. It wasn't easy at all, but I'm glad I did it.
But there's only 2 types of musicians, really. There's those who are insecure and those who don't yet know that they are insecure.
Same as sound guys, mate.
It's probably the human condition, though, right?
Probably right, yeah. 8 years of therapy. I mean, I sold 4 guitars to go to therapy. That's why I have to keep focusing on it, because otherwise it was a waste.
You've done well.
Yeah.
Well, and there would be others out there that most likely feel the same as you, Paul. And
well, I think that's one of the things that I've learned in the last few years, is that God gives you a story. He doesn't make any mistakes with even the horrible things you've gone through, because he wants you to share your story about how you face these things, so that people know that they're not the only one, because we kind of think that we are. And often in our church circles, we're not really encouraged to talk about that stuff. And so we end up thinking, I'm the only one that battles with this. And if you actually just share your story, it's incredibly empowering to other people. So I think that was one of the positives that came out of this whole thing for me, was that it wasn't so much a performance, and I was able to talk about a few things like that.
One of the things that really impressed me about you, Paul, even back in the band thing days, back at the pub, like, is just that way you were talking about connecting with a secular audience, even in God terms, without them knowing it, you know, like, and your messaging for me has always been awesome. So, I mean, I'm really glad that the other guys got around you as well to just take it up that next level as well, because then you've got the message and the amazing music as well. So, you know, like, I've really enjoyed it over the years, especially from that. Yeah.
I'm constantly amazed as I look back of how kind God is. Because if I look back and I actually I started writing a book about my own story, and I got to about 80 pages, and I was just like, I hadn't written anything positive yet.
Oh wow.
And so when you look back on your own story, you just think, oh. And so, but then you have to realize that God's grace is much bigger than your mistakes. That's actually quite painful to accept it, because you want to beat yourself up for it, but then you suddenly realize that beating yourself up for it is actually not godly at all. And so to look back and go, oh my gosh, but the fact that people are still friends with me, the fact that God still loves me despite myself, and the fact that, you know, someone like you might say something like that to me, it's an encouragement about how kind God is. It doesn't make me necessarily feel good about myself. It makes me realize that even all the times when there was so many things that I did in my own strength, God was still like, yeah, I know. I got you, son. I know. You don't realize how much yet, but you will. It's okay. I'll use you.
Yeah, and I'll butt in here, Paul, and say, you know, we were just, Paul and I were having a chat not that long ago, just about the ways that we encouraged each other back in the early days of when we first met. And I think it would be true of all four of us guys here to say that the way that Paul made us think a little bit differently about the word ministry. I mean, you titled this conversation Ministry and how COVID-19 or coronavirus is affecting ministry. Well, Paul is the one who began the conversation about what is ministry, and I think we all got to the place of understanding, and I would assume that we're all pretty similar on this, that, you know, driving to the supermarket is as much as a ministry as standing on the platform leading a song in a concert in a church, doing sound, whatever, you know. And so we've got to learn as followers of Jesus not to have this switch on, switch off mentality. We've got to learn to be always trying to, you know, usher in the fruit of God's Spirit, if you like, love, peace, patience, gentleness, self-control into every situation. And then it's either good ministry or bad ministry. It doesn't matter where it is, what it is. And Paul was probably the one who initiated that conversation for all of us that has really radically changed us, you know, all of our thinking. You know, we spent plenty of years debating it in the van, but, you know, it's something that...
Oh, in the van, yeah.
That I think anyone who claims to be a follower of Jesus can think about, you know, am I doing good ministry at any moment of any day? It's either good or it's bad. It's either reconciling people to God or it's pulling people apart, really.
And that ushering of who God is, in our experience, I think happens through our weakness and our brokenness. I'm going to say more than any sort of human conjured strength. You know, I think it's a bit of a sad tragedy that, you know, when we use the word testimony in the Christian church, it means a different thing in a court of law, of course. But in the Christian church, people use the word testimony to usually mean this story from the past about when I was a mess, before Jesus was invited into my heart, we might say, depending on your background. But back then, this is what my life was like. But now I've pretty much got it together. Yep. You know, we won't say it in those terms, and no one will claim to be perfect, but almost everyone who's given a microphone to give their testimony or writes a book about their testimony, it's all past tense. And I don't think this idea that, you know, I used to be a mess but now because of Jesus, I've pretty much got it together. That's not how we're supposed to carry ourselves. I think we're supposed to go, wow, when I first encountered who Jesus is, his grace hit me and I realized what a mess I was. And as I've traveled through this journey of being following Jesus, I'm realizing I'm even more messed up than I realized back then. And so my testimony is present tense, it's current. And my sense of my desperate need for a savior is growing, not getting less. You know, my sense of, I've still got this junk. I'm still trying to be my own small g God. I'm still trying to be the master of my own destiny. And the only way I get to be this conduit Australians, conduit Americans, is to get out of the way and let God move in and through me and pour through me. And that's 24/7, 365 and 366 on a leap year. And this is a leap year. Get out of the way. But, you know, we create these compartments in our, and you hear it in our Christianese language, you know, ministry is this thing I'm doing when people are noticing. You know, my testimony is that old story. Prayer is just these moments when we're speaking to God, but prayer should be the constant conversation, right? And the big one for me in my work is the word worship. You know, people say things like worship starts at 10 a.m. on a Sunday. Was it done by lunchtime? No, this idea of showing the worth of God should be this constant. And I need to realize that the way I raise my children, the way I keep my marriage vow, the way I pay my taxes, and the way I sing songs on a Sunday are all woven into this idea of being a worshipper, someone showing the worth of God. And I'm more passionate than ever to hear the church sing and gather together, or to have a strong sense of community online during the COVID-19 crisis. Yes, let's sing as one of the ways we show the worth of God, but let's realize that we should be surrendering our lives 24/7 to show the worth of God, getting out of the way and being a living sacrifice. Romans 12.
Come on.
Don't shut me up now. I'm going to get going.
That's a conversation I've been having on some of the Facebook groups too, is people are going, what are we doing this Sunday? And I go, why are you waiting till Sunday? It's like ministry can happen, especially at the moment, right now. Now, exactly. In a minute, in 5 minutes, tomorrow, you know, like,
well,
don't
Paul showed us that was always the case, even from the day, you know, we started hanging out. I think maybe we didn't think that way back then, or I didn't anyway. But he was the one who opened our eyes to say, it starts at 7-Eleven, or it starts in the car trip. And it still does. And Grant's talking about the church being, you know, singing greater than ever, but it's the way we treat the person at the supermarket.
That's it. I remember being on a bus going from Sydney to Lithgow with you guys and third day, and Paul was talking about proximity to God. And like for 2 hours, like that we had this amazing conversation that Paul led about everyone's on a journey between 0 and 100 towards God. And it was probably one of the most profound things that affected me, actually, like for 2 hours, because I'm sitting in the bus helping drive and I'm like, this is the best drive I've had in years, you know. Like,
that's awesome. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's like, what?
So don't discount yourself ever, Paul, because like all of us, you use your gifts where God's given them to you, you know. Like I was talking to Karen about this webcast even, and I'm talking to her and she's like, nah, I'm not going to, like, I don't want to do that. Like people don't want to see me. And I'm like, why not? God's given you a gift. Get on the air, you know. Like,
I'm still fidgeting under the desk.
Can we actually try something for a second? Would you allow me to initiate something?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so Phil, Grant, myself and Dave, we're all going to ask Karen one question, okay?
Love it.
No!
Karen?
Yeah.
Yes?
Karen, what's your all-time favourite chick flick?
Chick flick?
Movie.
Oh!
Gender stereotype.
Like, I could watch that movie I could have asked her, you know, violent thriller, but I just went with chick flick.
I've got a really old one.
Yeah, come on.
Which I love. While you were sleeping.
Oh,
Sandra Bullock going.
Never seen it.
Oh, David. You haven't lived, David.
I won't confess to
sleeping, mate.
Yeah.
Who's up next?
I'll go.
Karen.
We can. Oh, okay.
Go, Grant.
Go, great.
tell us a little bit about your immediate family.
There you go.
Okay.
Not a question technically, but yeah.
My husband Gavin, we've been married for, I hope he's not watching this, 26 years.
That's awesome.
26 years.
Not
And
married when you were 10?
No. And we've got 3 children, and 2 of them are married. And we've got one
Wait, what?
son and one.
With that face?
Well, I am 21. No, I'm hitting the
That's
golden number next year,
Right,
unfortunately.
Dave or Phil? Who's up next?
Dave, go.
I was just going to ask about the church support sign in behind you, because it obviously is there for a reason and in the shot, and I want to know what it is.
Yeah, well, that's probably how I met Chris. Church Support Australia is something I began back in 2011 when we moved, soon after we moved to a country town in Australia, and I found that pastors didn't have staff like admin staff or social media staff or anyone who could do graphics. So I started Church Support Australia as a hobby, and just going around helping pastors with their admin and being an online virtual assistant, basically. So I've been working online way before this coronavirus thing started.
So you're used to working in,
Yes.
in this world.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So,
Very cool.
okay, now we can move on.
Phil's got to ask a question. Yeah.
I was going to say quickly, Karen also runs a whole bunch of Australian Christian Facebook groups like Aussie Christians on Facebook, leadership groups, other groups as well. So when you look on Facebook for Australian Christian groups, Karen's running just about all of them. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Trying to connect everyone.
Oh, good job.
Well, my question, Karen, is how has this situation affected your life the most, and what are you doing to sort of work with what's happened?
It's kind of accelerated my online work a lot, but a new aspect which I've had to learn is dealing with the emotional side of talking to pastors and ministry leaders and having heart-to-hearts with them in how they're coping. So it's kind of a different area to what I'm used to, but I just pray for so much wisdom all the time going through it. Yeah.
Karen, you're awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No.
No,
Okay, move on.
No, just before we do, I got one thing I want to say to you. I think one of the things that Grant and Phil and Dave and I learned when we were together was that, normally you get into playing music, not so much the tech guys, they're much more level-headed and mature than any musicians ever are, but you often like being on stage because you like people to see what you're doing, and, our need for approval and validation is like everybody else, but not everybody else has to get up on a stage. Not everyone has to name the band after themselves. But I guess my point is that one thing that we learned, I think, together, or begun to learn together, is that while the performance was important, we were kind of there each for 1 or 2 people in that particular place, in that particular arena, or that particular church building, or that place that, in the end, it's pretty sexy to see 1,000 people walk down the front, or to see the lights come down and all that sort of stuff. But in the end, the kind of stuff that you're doing, even though people like me and us get a lot of accolades and stuff, it's not really the way that God sees it. So one of the things we learned together, I think, is that whole idea that really our job was to serve others, and it looked like we were getting a lot of attention, but quite frankly, it didn't really do anything for me. It wasn't that kind of was my addiction. It was approval on every level, not as much on stage, but just so the reason why we'd ask you is that, like, the obvious thing is, well, we're Grammy nominated, which means we lost, but we're like sort of these musicians, and so they're your support person, so just sit there and whatever else. But I I have to say that I think together we sort of learnt that God doesn't think that way.
That's so true.
But what you're doing is awesome, and you're an inspiration. And I just wanted you to say that.
Thank you.
Man,
I agree.
I'm going to visit your house in heaven. Mine's just got an outhouse, and I haven't even got a commode yet.
Oh, dear.
Hey,
Definitely no toilet paper there either. Yeah.
Butt wipes, mate. I'm all about butt wipes.
Yeah, too much information, Paul. We don't need to know about
Yeah.
What you do with the butt wipe?
No.
Oh, dear.
Hey, I
Where
don't
do you
know.
find these guys, Chris?
There might be a few people who were, dare I say, still are fans of the Paul Colman Trio, PC3. They might be interested to know that we actually remastered and re-released the independent first album that the band put out called Serious Fun. Came out in 1999. And 20 years later, we remastered it and re-released it just before last Christmas. And go to paulcolmantrio.com.
That website again.
Phil?
paulcolmantrio.com.
And there is no...
There's no Ian Coleman.
Right. paulcolmantrio.com. And, yeah, you can get a link there to our little Bandcamp shop and buy yourself a sizzling remaster of that record. And also the 2011 record we put out called Return that not everyone heard about. That's also available there. And if people are pretty interested in what the trio is doing, there are 3 albums that have been unavailable for quite a few years. The album called Turn and the 2 live albums, Electric and Acoustic. And if there's enough interest, maybe they should be re-released on their 20-year anniversary as well. I don't know. But
that'll be this year.
If the people speak. Yeah, that'll be this year for Turn and next year for the live electric and live acoustic.
Great reason for a tour.
A virtual tour, maybe.
Oh, no, next year we should be fine.
Or a virtual gig, virtual concert, maybe.
I think maybe we have to do a house show tour because I don't think enough people would turn up for us.
I can remember many, many years ago, Boom Crash Opera playing a song on Hey Hey It's Saturday with all the band members in different places.
Yep.
Really?
Yep. They played one song and it was
Man, you're old.
together. Yeah, I guess so.
Yes.
Still better looking than you though, mate.
What's that?
Don't know.
What's it? Say it again.
Not sure I can repeat it.
I always said you ran your ear monitors too loud, Paul.
Dear.
Did you say you're still better looking?
I may have.
Is that what you said?
I may have.
I think you're probably right. I think your face is way more symmetric than mine.
Yeah.
Can you still do that stance, Grant? The bass stance with the legs, like.
The bass dance.
You used to stand with their legs one side of the stage and the other side of the stage, and.
Oh no! I think my hamstrings are nowhere near that these days.
I love that. With the orange pants, it was awesome.
It was the style at the time. What can I say?
It was awesome.
I've still got a bit of a thing for orange, though.
There you go.
Oh yeah, but you didn't think quick enough to get paid with the product placement. Lifestyle are giving me a whole quarter of a can for free for doing this.
Really?
Yeah.
Deal. Everyone gets the same deal.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, so one of the reasons I wanted to get you guys on the show as well, you've been a huge mentor to me in different ways. I mean, I think I even had 2 drum lessons with Phil once, but he just couldn't teach me because I'm unteachable. But Phil was an amazing drum teacher, by the way. Yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of everyone here in Australia that's like been sewn into over the years by your music and your technology, Dave. And just, yeah, thanks so much for all that. And it's so great to have you on and see you guys again. And yeah, just bless you in your ministries and stuff. And yeah, and we'll see you soon, hopefully online with an online concert and something like that.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Chris. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
And I was going to say, is there one last thing you each want to say to our audience before we go? And we'll let Paul go last because some people might need to go early.
Well, I just want to say that I'm somewhat flabbergasted that people remember what we did together, and very happy to speak with you guys, Chris, Karen, and anyone who was listening. Thanks for having us. It's been great.
Thanks for coming.
Dave, got anything to say? Any last word?
There's a lot to say, but yeah, I mean, it's actually really good to get together with all of you and talk about things that I think were quite formative in, shaping character and that kind of stuff, as well as great times and great memories. But, as we're all sort of locked down and doing things remotely at the moment, it's nice to remember those times, but I think there are good times to come. But I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and chat with you guys. It's been great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
Bill.
Big yawn from Phil.
Sorry.
You doing all right, mate? Keeping you up?
Yeah, no, I think the thing is, what I've noticed sort of chatting with people online a lot in this situation at the moment is that people are very vulnerable, got a lot of, this situation affects everyone individually differently in so many ways. And I think just about everybody is hurting in some kind of way because of what the coronavirus has forced us all into. And it's just to be, it's actually an amazing opportunity to really care for other people, to listen to whatever anyone else is going through and just be whoever you are, just be a friend to somebody else. Video chatting like this, you kind of tend to go deeper more quickly perhaps than seeing someone face to face. So for everyone just to really, take that opportunity to listen well to somebody who who you could connect with, I think is what this time is really about.
Cool. Paul, any final words?
Firstly, Chris, thanks for bringing us together.
It's okay. Yeah.
I just want you to know that it's, you don't have to put yourself down. You're a good guy, and it's okay to be enthusiastic. And we're very thankful that you did that, because we didn't do this, but you did that. God used you in your way to do that, and your enthusiasm. And I want you to know I'm really thankful. I've realized in the last few years that I've actually had dyslexia most of my life. There's about 16 symptoms for it, and I have 13 of them, and I'm seeing a neuropsychologist. And one of those things is when I write something down in a calendar, I wrote down Thursday. So I went shopping to get some stuff, and feels like, oi! So I sometimes I have some disconnections sometimes with what I write down and what I remember, and I'm only just starting to understand some of those things. So let me just say on behalf of all of us, thanks for getting us together. Grant and I fought almost every day for 5 years, and I think one of the reasons why I couldn't stand Grant for a lot of the time was because he called me out on the crap in my life, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it one bit. And after the trio split up, I just had to get back to the bottom of what was really going on in my life, like what was really motivating and running my life. And it took me a while to win Grant back because he didn't really trust me, but I won him back, and I said to him that I'm sorry. And part of the Return album was us getting together and facing some of these things. There's a couple of tracks on there that are back-to-back, 5s and 6s and Wannabe, that are like, woo! They're really full of what came out of therapy for me. And Phil, was one of those guys that looked up to me, whereas in my mind, it was always the other way around. Like, he's always been a hero.
Yeah. And
Dave was the guy that after the show, and we would sit and talk for hours and hours and hours and hours, and smoke and talk for hours and and drink beers and stuff. And Dave was just that. He was that guy that he didn't say a whole lot, but I just knew that I felt safe with him. And so for me, as I sit here looking at these three guys, I'm very humbled by the fact that I had a lot of front, and I had some songs, and I had a personality, and I had all this sort of stuff that was kind of like the engine room for how some things got mobilized. But I was actually the least mature and together and connected person, and the least present person in the whole group. And so this, without these guys, I really wouldn't have gone anywhere. And yet I still shut them out of a whole bunch of the stuff. So and I've said this to all of them at different points. It's not like there's anything new about this statement, but it really refreshes in my mind the fact that, you know, God is gracious and he's kind and he uses us in spite of ourselves. And that what we often think is what he's doing is not what he's doing. And what we often call the event is not the event. And he still loves us. So we want to thank you and Karen for being a part of this and for bringing us together, because it's a great reminder for all of us, because we've walked a lot of miles together. We know each other very, very well. And yet the fact is we're still here, and I don't feel like there's any bad blood at all. And that to me that's a miracle. That's a miracle of grace and kindness. And so thanks for bringing us together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's our privilege.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. It's just the pre-release to your tour coming up next year. Chris is organising that side.
Karen, is church support funding the tour? Is that the way?
I'll think about it.
Major sponsor.
Yeah, well, you never know. You never know.
Yeah, that's right.
Dave's already there.
I'm already
set up.
Dave is. Oh, fantastic. Thanks for your time today, guys. And yeah, we'll see you in the future in whatever endeavors you do.
Yeah.
All right,
Thanks,
bye.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Adios, amigos.
All right. So the live stream's off, but we're still here. Cool. Thanks so much. I want to echo something that you said, Paul, about Grant. Grant's called me out on a few things over the time on the internet. Some of my comments on Facebook and stuff.
That be me?
And you know what? That really made me think about where I'm going. You know, like it's like, why am I thinking like that? You know, it was really
Chris,
good.
you've got a memory like no one else I've ever met.
Well, I'm an IT guy. I'm an analyst, so I remember everything. When I walk into your concert, I can tell. I can even remember Dave's lighting from Rebecca St James. I just remember. All right, how the trusses all lined up, where the cameras were, everything. That's how my brain works. It's a database.
That's awesome. How does that work with arguments with your wife?
Yeah, unfortunately, I've got the memory and she doesn't. So, which is sadly, she's actually losing memory a bit. So,
I'm sorry.
No. It's not a bad thing. It's actually, it's something that really plagues me actually in real life. Because I remember everything. And I think laterally too, which makes it worse. Because when you say,
let me test you. Can I test your memory?
All right.
Okay. Who does God say you are?
Uh-oh.
Oh dear, his son.
What? His son? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, I mean, this is something that I've had to deal with a lot this year, especially doing, because I do online ministry, right? So I'm relaunching some sites online and things like that. So I'm like, well, people are saying to me, but even if you're a ministry, you need to be perfect. And I'm like, oh, I'm nothing like that, you know? I'm me, you know? I'm really rough, and people tell me all the time that I shouldn't be the leader because I'm spontaneous. I'm like like you, Paul. Like I'm the same sort of personality type as you, like with a bit of technical thrown in. So I'm very random, and I'm what's the word? Distracted and things like that. And people are like, well, why are you running these ministries if you're doing that? And I'm like, yeah, maybe I should give up because God's got it. I've obviously got God wrong. And so I guess this year for me, it's been, God's made me the way I am, and God's put me here for a reason. And maybe that's because the people who've got it all together have got it wrong in this space, or not got it wrong, but I need to be here for this time, you know. So anyway, so that's in a nutshell, that's kind of the journey I've been on in my head, you know.
And you know, one of the things, Chris, that was a very, very hard thing for me to start to work on was that, you know, you hear that story of what's happening right now. This is what's happening right now. I just said this, and this is what these people think, and this is how that came across. So therefore, because I know that's how this came across, I'm just going to self-efface myself a little and say something, you know, I'm not so good at this because I don't want to come across. And all this is going on in your brain, and most of it's BS.
Yeah, that's true.
That's one of the hardest things that I had to learn, because my therapist, well, the second one, I wore the first one out. The second second one said, the reason why this is going to be so hard for you, Paul, is because you have trusted your perceptions about what's going on, and you've acted your whole life.
Yeah.
And you don't know who you are apart from that. And yet you've admitted to these words like shame and fear and codependence and all these words. And that's what all these thoughts are filtered through. And yet you're trusting these. So it's a tough thing to do. And, you preach what you need to hear. You see in people what you battle with. And I can just see a couple of times, even during this time, I see, that stuff happening in your brain, but it's not what God's telling you. And it's not what any of us have felt, because you're the dude that brought us together and you're awesome.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like God's called me to bring people together. And I have this, people have always said about a disrespect for the system, but in a time like this, I feel like when a minister sowed a word into me and just said, maybe it's not disrespect for the system, but it's a new approach to how God wants to work in the church, and so I can rock up to people like you guys, who I see you as like right up there as far as I'm concerned in the kingdom, right? Like, and I can just say, I want you on my show. I'm nobody, but I want you on my show because it's not about me, it's about the people watching, and that's why we're here. Like, and I want to be more like that as a servant and more of a vessel rather than, I'm not here to make a show about myself, and if I didn't have to put my face on it, I wouldn't. Like, it's just, I just want pastors to know that they're not alone, and I think Karen's the same. It's like, why we started this is like, there's a lot of pastors out there that are really alone right now. Like, and their congregations saying, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And they don't know what to do because their institutions just left them out in the cold as well. Because they don't know what to do.
Yeah. And they also really like the fact that they didn't have to be in community and they could run things from their office. And now,
that's right. Yeah, they're their own boss. Yeah.
that's also, I said it with a grain of salt because, I'm not saying I'm not like that, but yeah. But anyway, back to you. Yeah, that's good, mate. Great. And you don't, and if in your heart it's not about you, you don't have to say it's not about you. So you never have to say that.
I know.
You never have to say it.
Yeah.
It's who you are. I used to say that stuff all the time because it was about me.
Yeah. Well, that's what I ironically I always say that to people. I say, if you have to tell me, then it's not obvious.
Yeah, well, put that one back in your memory zone.
I know. I know. Thanks, mate.
Just giving you a hard time. Thank you for doing this. Because I put this in my calendar for tomorrow night, my kids are in the other room over there waiting to start a movie. And and they texted me and said, how long, Dad? What are you actually doing? I said, I forgot about this thing. And then it's 5 minutes. And my nearly 18-year-old said, 5 minutes, my butt.
He knows you well.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear. All right, we'll see you again.
Go.
We'll see you again this time tomorrow then, Paul.
Yeah.
I'll be on the going, wow, this is a bit lonely.
I might play a few tunes while I'm here.
I'm gonna get a green screen and put pictures of all the shows that I've done where no one's turned up.
I was trying to find an empty venue shot to put behind me, but it's like,
You don't have any.
I was doing.
I have a bit of tech jealousy. Have you looked at the cave there and everything?
It's all built into Zoom. You just click on a button and add a photo.
But you have a green screen or you have a new computer?
Down the bottom, that little video button next, there's a little arrow next to it. You can choose.
Yeah, I've just found that my
background.
computer isn't chunky enough to do that without a green
I
screen.
just found gallery view.
Yeah, there's different views too. Yep.
Now he's going to have fun doing that.
Big view, gallery view.
We'll never get out of here.
And you can put videos in there as well.
What a Simpsons thumb.
You can raise your hand.
Yes.
You raised your hand yet?
Where?
Would you like to know Jesus? There you go. Oh, clapping. Nice.
Oh, God,
What does this one says?
thumbs up. That's all I got.
Yep.
Oh,
Meeting. What's that? Leave. What does that mean?
Leave me.
That's awesome. All right.
Good on him.
Well,
Good on you guys.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate your time and yeah. Good
Hey,
to
no
talk
worries.
again.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I
All
better
right.
go.
Thanks,
See ya.
Grant. Thanks,
Okay,
Dave.
cool.
Bye bye.
Thanks, Garen.
Bye.
Thanks, Chris.
See ya.
See yous. Bye.
Bye for now.
Bye.